I'm loving it, but yet you hide a vagina? You gotta look real close. Keep up with me now. Let's look into the picture instead of at it. I'm loving it is their slogan. But you hide a vagina in the ad. And everywhere I'm telling you, they operating on them lower chakras. They trying to activate them. They want to keep you thinking about having sex all damn day and getting high and getting drunk. So by the time you hear the rap song, are you ready? You done threw a couple back, you on the dance floor, and some unknown dude is grinding on your behind. So it's critical because it says feel the curves and the bottle is shaped like a woman, but you don't see the person having oral sex in the ice cubes. But see, this kind of stuff sits in your subconscious mind. Are you following me? And it hits you a little bit later on when you're not even thinking about it. I put it side by side so you can see it. And all you wanted to do was buy a damn soda. Are you following me? These people are wicked.
Welcome anybody else.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to jump right into it. I want to call my portion of the presentation Intellectual Insurrection. It has a little bit of a psychological twist to it because that's what I am. For those who don't know me, I see a lot of new faces, which is a good thing. I'm a school psychologist by training, a nationally certified school psychologist. And what I do in my job is I evaluate children in public school, and I decide who goes into special education. Any child who's ever been put in special ed got there because a school psychologist evaluated the child and said that they had one of 12 educational disabilities: mental retardation, autism, emotional disturbance, specific learning disability, deafness with blindness, orthopedic impairment, traumatic brain injury, other health impairment, multiple disabilities, or developmental delay. It's what I call the Sweet 12 or the Sweet 13. Depending on what state you live in, there's 12 or 13. In Pennsylvania, there's 12. The job of the school psychologist is very, very complicated because you're asked to determine whether or not this black child is struggling because they're not interested or because they can't learn. But special education is very political. To make it real simple, I'll give you an analogy. There's 2 million black men in prison, there's 2 million kids in special ed. Do you see the relationship? There's 2 million black men in prison, there's 2 million black kids in special education. I say that to say, parents, that you got to be very, very circumspect before you put your child in special education because it can be a high road to incarceration. By the way, there's no longer anything called a Board of Education in the Americas. There is no longer a Board of Education. You only have boards of incarceration. It's very important that you understand that. The purpose of school is to prepare children for prison for no other purpose. For no other purpose. There's 50 states in the United States of America. In each of the 50 states, the black population in prison is at least triple their population in society. In the state of Pennsylvania, blacks make up 10% of the population, but half of those in prison. In every state, we are 2 or 3 times our natural population inside the prison. It's deliberate, it's intentional, and it's systematic. And I say that to say that we have to prevent ourselves from falling into the trap of blaming the victim for their own situation. Yes, black people are the #1 accomplice to white supremacy. Without a doubt, we are the #1 accomplice chiefly because we do nothing about it. Okay? But we do not spend billions of dollars to keep ourselves where we are. We did not put up the $500 million to create HIV. We didn't put up the money to create Ebola. We're not the ones building the prisons. We don't create the miseducation systems. So as you can see, you are not the chief cause of your problem because you don't have the economic organization to do what's being done to you. Very important that we understand that. Now I want to deal with education first. If I'm going to deal with education, I got to deal with incarceration. The reason why you see the incarceration rates mushrooming as they are is because what? The black man and woman are no longer needed in American society. You were brought here to do what? To work, to labor on behalf of someone else. But now there is a whole group of minorities who are coming into America who are willing to do the job that you did for cheap without no complaints. Your existence in America is very peculiar. It is problematic for white supremacy. Why? Because you actually have a right to be here. You actually have a stake in this country. You built it. So that's very problematic when you want to get rid of a people. So what must you do? To get rid of those people, you have to do what? Find somebody to take their place. America will always need a free and exploitable source of labor. Because they don't want the black man and woman to no longer be the free and exploitable source of labor, they have turned now to the who? The Hispanic. And now the Hispanic is uprooting you and everything you can think of. In fact, in President Obama's last medical higher education bill, he put $2.5 billion aside for historically black colleges and universities. But for the first time in history, that money for black colleges can go to white colleges if they are trying to recruit and retain Hispanics. In case you haven't been paying attention, the entire civil rights movement that your ancestors fought, bled, and died for has been totally taken over by Hispanics and homosexuals. Now, when you deal with homosexuality, sometimes we make the mistake of dealing with it through a moral lens. Don't deal with it morally. It's not really a moral issue. Some of us deal with it through the cultural lens. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not principally a cultural issue. Some of us deal with homosexuality through a genetic lens. Okay? You can go there if you want, but there is no proof anywhere on the face of the earth that homosexuality is a natural God-given disorder. Now, let me tell you why homosexuality is here, and this relates to education. Why? Because homosexuality has now made its way into the public schools. Some of your children are reading books that have same-sex marriage couples in it, and you don't even know this because the books don't come home with the child. Okay? Now, in 1974, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger wrote a national security memorandum dealing with population control in the United States. In this population control memorandum, he recommended to President of the United States, who I believe was Richard Nixon at the time, that if you want to control the black population in America, which is growing, I suggest that we openly advocate for homosexual relationships in the black community. It is a population control strategy. It has nothing to do with God, and it has nothing to do with genetics. The reason why you see so much homosexual advocacy is it is a population control measure. And then they put the HIV into the homosexual males, and now they give it to the black woman, so now you exterminate the whole race. The problem with our community is we don't have a socialization process. We wonder why so many males become homosexual, because the homosexuals have a socialization process for your child. We wonder why so many children drop out of high school, because the school district has a socialization process for your child. They can almost predict that they're going to leave in 9th grade because they socialize them that way. The Army has a socialization process for your child. That's why once they enroll, they consider themselves Army men and Marine men until the day that they die. Even when they sleep, they have it in their mind because they're socialized to do that. You do not have a socialization apparatus in place. As a result, your children don't even belong to you. You think they do until they get a certain age, and now they belong to somebody else because there's invisible systems at play that you can't see with the naked eye. You can only see it if you put on your political shades. And most of us don't look at our political shades. We can't see it, which is why you hear black people say today that there can't be no white racism because I don't see no white people in the ghetto. But what you fail to realize is that you do not have to be present if the strength of your system is as developed enough that allows you not to be there. They control the ghetto by remote control. And they control the ghetto by who? Black elitist Negro leaders. And one of the biggest reasons why black people haven't made more progress is because you keep listening to these leaders who are members of the black elite, whose agenda is the same as your enemy. But you can't see this. An elitist Negro is no different from a European. They have the same values, they have the same interests, and none of them can stand grassroots black people. Which is why any elitist Negro leader that you see, they don't live with you, they don't struggle with you, and they don't like to be seen after dark anywhere around you. They simply tell you what to do. In fact, as attorney Alton Maddox in New York said it best, he said that there are no Negro leaders in America, there are only Negro brokers. Their job is to broker deals between the power structure and the black masses to keep them at peace. If you don't believe me, look at any revolt that almost turned into any kind of an organized struggle. In every situation, you see what? A Negro leader being sent in by the power structure, not to organize your issue and present it in the right way, but to silence you altogether. Watch them. Some ministers, but not all. Some businessmen, but not all. Some politicians, but not all. But the key ones, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And so what you have to ask yourself is, why are you following this person? And the interesting thing about black America, it's impossible for you to have a leader anyway, because you're not organized. Organized groups of people choose leaders. If you notice, nobody can give white people a leader. They have an apparatus in place for that. You've never heard of someone giving the Orientals a leader. They have an apparatus in place for that. Black people are the only people on earth who you could tell them who's leading them without them actually giving their own informed consent, as we call it in psychology. So I'm saying that to say that you got to back off and stop reacting to what's going on. And if we're going to talk about reacting to what's going on, I got to talk about President Obama.